everyone uses the word AI like they know what it means. However, even computer scientists have been arguing about this for over 70 years. ChatGPT is AI, Netflix recommendations is AI, thermostat uses AI, and your even phone camera sometimes uses AI to improve quality. Question is, what do they have in common? In 1950, Alan Turing asked a very famous question: can machines think? However, his conclusion was that this question is wrong. Because thinking was very confusing for people and very unclear. So instead, he reframed it into something else, something testable. And that was the Turing test. How it worked: for example, you're sitting somewhere and you're chatting with two people. One of them is AI, one of them is an actual person. If you won't be able to tell which one is AI, or AI be able to fool you that you think that AI is human, then you have to take the intelligence of that machine very seriously. That was Turing test. However, Turing didn't exactly define intelligence. So he basically sidestepped the question that AI is intelligent or not. And this sidestep is basically the story of AI for next 70 years. Build something that behaves intelligently and describe what intelligence is later. Before getting any further, let me tell you that there are two ways that we can build an artificial mind. One, defining it by rules. So how it works is you define every rule for AI and it exactly follows them. However, our world is full of exception. So it worked, yeah, sort of. However, it broke constantly whenever it faced an exception. There is another approach. Imagine instead of defining rules for AI, you could just feed it numerous examples and just leave it to find patterns by itself. For example, you could feed AI a million cat photos and a million non-cat photos, and it would find the pattern itself and it would figure out what a cat is. No one told AI after an article comes a noun. It just figured it out because AI was given a massive amount of text. And then it just figured out everything. No one taught AI English. It figured it out and learned it by itself. Interesting, huh? Exactly the way that you learned your own first language. And John Searle in 1980 attacks the idea that AI understands anything by a thought experiment that is very well known and famous: the Chinese room. Imagine you're sitting in a room and there's a slot through the door and a paper slides in. You open that paper and it's filled with alien language and you're just shocked. And you're like, what in the fuck? I'm kidding. And you just open that, it's filled with Chinese characters and symbols. And you don't speak a word of Chinese. But you have a very massive rulebook that contains every symbol in Chinese and helps you that for each symbol, how or with which symbol you have to respond to that. For example, if you get that symbol, pass back another one. After a while, you will learn to work with that very well. And the person outside, at some point, is persuaded that you can speak perfect Chinese. However, you don't understand anything. Sarah's point is, that's exactly what computer does. Exactly. It just produces an output based on that input without actually understanding it through its sophisticated pattern. And famously said, syntax without semantics, shape shuffling without actually understanding anything. Question is ChatGPT a very large and quick Chinese room? Point is, you can't settle this by looking at outputs. The man in the room and the Chinese speaker can produce identical answer, and if behavior can't tell them apart, then the question that does it understand might not be answerable through looking at the outputs. And this is very uncomfortable because outputs are all we ever tend to see, right? So, what actually counts as AI? Another philosopher, Margaret Boden, doesn't answer the question of does it understand and steps back to another question. What are we even trying to build? And she describes AI like this: AI is any attempt to get a machine to do something that if a human did it required intelligence. It doesn't require real understanding. It's just a task that matters. And not what's happening inside. That was her framing of AI. Under that definition, ChatGPT, Netflix, a thermostat, a chess engine are all AIs, but they don't do the same exact thing. They have different functionality. Whether any of them understands anything stays a separate, open question. We answered what AI is. AI is a moving target of impressive machine behavior, not one specific technology. But that walks us into a question that is going to be very fascinating. So, what happened is Turing sidestepped it, Searle attacked it, and Boden just left it open. Three brilliant people, but they left the term of intelligence in AI a mystery. So that brings me to my final question, and I want to ask you guys this. Does AI very good at simulating understanding, or does it actually understand something? That question is going to be answered in the next video.